I have set over $15 million in buy orders on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And these new trades, I'm going to be exactly break down on today's update video. I will also go, of course, exactly in towards the reasons why I set up these levels, what I think is going to be happening next year, why we got this bounce towards the upside, which we exactly predicted in yesterday's video, because we saw this bullish divergence occur in the market, and now it happened. And of course, I want to talk about what I think is going to be happening next year. So don't forget to once again watch this video till the end. It's going to be a very important one. It's going to be one where I, of course, reveal my exact strategy in the upcoming period. And of course, I'm going to do a deep dive in towards Ethereum, because Ethereum really remains to be quite strong here. So guys, don't forget to once again slap that like button back above 1,000 likes. That will be highly appreciated. And let me jump straight away in today's update video. So to kick off the video, first of all, we are clearly seeing that Bitcoin started to create a major bounce towards the upside. I mean, I say a major bounce, but after the massive correction we got 3 days ago here, we just saw a slight little bounce after we created and confirmed the bullish divergence on the market. And of course, this is exactly what I discussed on yesterday's video. On yesterday's video, I basically said that I was expecting on the short term a slight little bounce towards the upside, but on the longer term here, that we are probably still going to be in a little bit more of a corrective phase in the market. However, we are currently seeing that this major level of previous resistance is still holding us up as support, which is a very great thing here. But if I'm just analyzing all the previous corrections, and especially if I analyze all these massive flash crashes we got in the past here, it clearly shows us one thing here, and it's that like most of the times whenever we do get a flash crash, we first of course see a slight or very strong bounce towards the upside, but only later in the following days here, it remains to show us that the trend is a little bit weak here until we fill up the wick on the lower side. And do remember, yesterday's bounce was also on the weekend, not to create fear or whatsoever. But of course, what I am doing, of course, is I am very heavily exposed to Bitcoin. Very heavily. But with my long positions and short positions, I'm trying to hedge my positions. And right now, I have set up new Bitcoin orders. And already before, I shared my exact orders in my private Telegram group. So if you want to be staying up to date in real time on all of my trades, make sure to join the private Telegram group in the second link in today's video description. But basically, I have set up my Bitcoin long orders on levels where I think Bitcoin is going to be finding a very strong bounce from. And yes, I am not going to be opening up a trade right here, because in my opinion, it is too risky to do so on this moment of time here. And for my trades here, since I want to be taking it very cautiously, I want to have the best risk to reward setup, and that is not right now. In my opinion, the market is too dangerous to enter longs right now here. Well, it in fact could very much see a very strong bounce back towards the upside from off this support line. I think it's still a little bit too dangerous. Also, obviously, it is not only Bitcoin where I opened up trades on, but also on Ethereum, but I'm going to be doing a deep dive on these trades a little bit later in this video. But basically, if we're just looking back at the previous Bitcoin bull market, such corrections like we saw a couple days ago are actually quite normal to be getting in the market, because this is of course what Bitcoin has done every single time during the previous bull market. And historically, what we tend to see here after such a massive correction in the market, somewhat of a more prolonged consolidation phase. So this is also one of the expectations I currently am having. But since we of course grabbed all the lower side liquidity, it is of course eventually going to be quite inevitable that we are ultimately going to be bouncing back towards the upside again here. But just like we have seen in many previous occasions, is that whenever Bitcoin creates such a big push towards the downside, eventually we create another lower low here to of course fill up the gap here, fill up the liquidity gap that we basically created over the course of this major flash crash. So that is basically my reasoning behind it. And yeah, most people are once again already saying, okay, Bitcoin has seen a strong bounce. They're starting to accumulate again here. But in most cases where we see these flash crashes, for example, over here, eventually you fill it up here with this level right here, right? And this is what you see in many flash crashes here in the market. For example, here in 2022, major flash crash. Eventually, of course, we see a buyback. We hold it up, but eventually we fill up that gap, right? Then also, for example, over here, a major flash crash. Eventually, we fill up that exact wick here on the lower side. This is what happens usually all the time here in these flash crashes. Also, it happened over here, major flash crash. Eventually, we fill up that wick over here, right? And that is the time, the second time we're going to be coming back towards the level, is where I personally want to be accumulating very heavily again here. So this has happened so many times before in the history of Bitcoin, and that is why I'm going to be having the same strategy this time around again here. And I have set up multiple orders on the lower side, even lower, because if I'm purely going to be looking at Bitcoin and let's say we're going to fill up that gap here, sometimes we usually tend to fall even a little bit lower here. And that is why I am looking at two very important levels. And that is that 98,000 US dollars level and that 93,000 US dollar level. Why these two levels? Because the $98,000 level is this major level of previous resistance here flipped into support and marked the exact bottom right for this push towards the upside. I do think a lot of support is going to get found around that level. Also right here, the 94K level, clear level of significance. Also got a major rejection right here. Whenever you flip above it over here, it marked the exact beginning of the rally towards the upside. So these are the two levels I'm personally aiming for, where I want to be basically go almost all in towards very big positions on Bitcoin. So those are the levels, of course, I am personally looking at. And I know it's a very unpopular opinion to say that I've set up my orders over here. Well, potentially Bitcoin can maybe already bounce towards the upside. And I'm very much aware of that. And if that does happen, it's okay. I missed out of my trades. I'm just going to be reevaluating and look at the next opportunity. But I am not an impatient trader. If you've been following the channel, you know I don't take a lot of trades here. I've maybe took about 7 trades this year, and all of them eventually end up in profit. And that is, of course, due to my very patient approach here. So yes, I'm not going to be rushing in towards a position, but I let the position come to me here. And if you feel like you're interested in trading yourself as well, don't forget to sign up an account to WeX using that first link in today's video description. Because if you do so, guys, you will get not only a 25% fee rebate, but also they're giving away a free $100 by signing up an account and confirming your phone number and email. And on top of that, they're giving away up to $30,000 in deposit bonuses, which is, of course, quite insane if you would ask me here. And then, I mean, if I'm looking at Bitcoin at even more charts here, I mean, yes, we have seen already the very strong bounce on Bitcoin. But for me, the sweet spot where I want to be going heavily in towards Bitcoin trades here is clearly this 50 weekly moving average here. And this 50 weekly moving average, every single time so far we retested this level, it has been a tremendous opportunity to be, of course, opening up long positions. And this is, of course, what I want to be doing again here. I want to see Bitcoin come back towards this level to scale very heavily in towards these long trades again here. Because what I want to be doing with my trades here is just look at very low risk trades here, and of course make a ton of profit after we got entered. So that is the exact strategy I currently have here. And of course, if you want to be maybe stay up to date about a little bit more scalp trades, guys, make sure to definitely join the VIP Telegram group as well using that second link in today's video description, because there we also have multiple other traders that are sharing scalping setups, etc., etc. But for my trades, I am a swing trader. That is just really my identity as a trader, and I just have to wait a little bit longer before I get this good entry again for Bitcoin. So this is obviously the level I'm going to be waiting for. And also one of the levels I'm looking at is, of course, the $102,000 level, that previous Fibonacci level of support for Bitcoin where we exactly bounced from. And like I've mentioned many times before as well here. But now I want to quickly dive in towards my Ethereum trades, because I also set up multiple orders on ETH. I bought a lot of Ethereum on spot around this region right here, but I have not opened up a new leverage trade yet. And I mean, if you've been watching the channel, and you have set up limit orders, I didn't do so around this level, congratulations. Because I mentioned many times on the channel that this is the zone where I want to be opening up big leverage long trades on Ethereum. But of course, I didn't have my orders set up here because there was a flash crash. I didn't saw it coming. But what I did do right now here is set up the orders right now here. Because ultimately, just like Bitcoin as well here, we've created this major wick on the lower side. Just like you can see over here, whenever we create these big flash crashes, ultimately, we grab the liquidity from these wicks here. And this is also what happened over here, for example. This is what happened over here, for example. This is what happened over here, for example. Every single time we grab the liquidity eventually from these big wicks on the lower side. And this is a very sweet spot, in my opinion, where I want to be, of course, open up big trades on Ethereum. It is, of course, a level where I am personally very much willing to be buying. And that is why I set up these orders on ETH around this level, $3,400 to about $3,300 US. And for Ethereum, I set up about $8 million or $6 million on orders. And for Bitcoin, it's about $9 million. So yeah, I'm basically set up more than $15 million of buy orders on WeX right now here. And yeah, because it's also very large orders, I am not going to be rushing in towards any positions. And if I miss out on these trades, it's okay for me. I am not going to feel gutted. I am just going to be looking at the next opportunity, because it's a game of patience. if you guys don't know yet here. But for example, if we're looking at ETH, we're still ultimately trading in this major bull flag pattern, which is of course looking very great here. And ultimately, if we're going to compare Bitcoin 2021 to ETH right now here, it does look very similar, right? It is looking very similar. And I still very much believe Ethereum is going to be having a major run here. Maybe we're not going to see versus move towards the downside, but if we do get it, it is going to be a tremendous opportunity. So yeah, this is exactly where I am personally going to be looking at. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how it's going to be playing out here. But ultimately, I'm always exposed towards my spot backs here. But since we did saw this major push towards the upside, this recovery on Bitcoin during a weekend, it is, of course, a little bit more dangerous. And I mean, I see already we're about to fill up the CME gap already. But yeah, do remember, we got this push towards the upside on a weekend. And usually weekends are just a little bit more dangerous. And also a thing I want to be mentioning before wrapping up this video, remember this CME gap we got around $110,000. This one, of course, I've talked about. I said, okay, it could take a while before we're going to be filling it up here. This one also is already filled up. But this is, of course, a thing that could be getting filled up in the next coming days here. So yeah, I do think ultimately we're going to be filling up the CME gap. But just like I mentioned in many videos before here, it usually tends to take some time before we fill up the CME gap. So very excited for what is going to be happening next year. But basically where it comes down to what I am doing, of course, you have to have your own strategy. But I'm going to wait for a 102K Bitcoin before entering in towards new big positions. And that's another 12% move towards the downside. And yeah, I think that is most likely going to be happening here. So this is my strategy. If you want to be staying up to date about the trades, join the VIP Telegram group here. If you, of course, want to be trading on WeX, the cheapest exchange out there, if you use my link in the description, sign up account to WeX using the first link below. But anyways, guys, this was it for me in today's update video. Subscribe to the channel, slap on that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.